Cool. And I'm assuming the screen is all popping up all well. Cool. So I wanted to go over our agenda for today. We're going to start with how solar works, just going over the basic components of a system. And then we're going to go into, is your home right for solar? And then going into the incentives that are available in Oregon and across the US. And we're going to finish it off with a solar story. A little bit more about us as an organization. We're a 40-year-old nonprofit that focuses on education around solar energy and clean energy in Oregon. We host, our webinars and workshops, and we also host tours like our solar winery tour and our Go Zero tour. And we also help conduct solarized campaigns, which is where a whole community decides to go solar, and they do basically like a bulk purchasing agreement, and it's a way of getting a lot of people to go solar at once. And we focus on peer-to-peer education, which is connecting people in the community with those who have solar, so that people can learn from their community members about the benefits of clean energy. If you'd like to support our work, that'd be greatly appreciated. You can use that link, bit.ly/solardonate. And a word about our main sponsor for today, our title sponsor. Energy Trust of Oregon is a nonprofit, and they provide access to affordable energy, and they serve Oregonians with anything to do with energy efficiency, solar. Like, they are there ready to help you and make that process smoother for you. I just wanted to go over some of the Zoom functions. There's a Q&A box, and if you have any questions that pop up during the webinar, feel free to use that. And then at the end, we're going to go through every single question and answer them. And there's also Zoom polling, which I'm going to start a poll right now. And this is just a location poll asking where you're tuning in from. And of course, all of these answers are anonymous. Like, we don't see any names tied to any of the answers. It looks like we have a nice spread through Oregon, some on the coast, some in central. Looks great. I'm going to go ahead and end that. And then this one is a demographics poll. Again, it's anonymous, but this just helps us see like who we're reaching and where we can improve to reach more audiences. Cool. I'm going to give it just probably 30 more seconds and see if anyone else finishes up their answers. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and stop that. And then the last poll we have is just what is your familiarity with solar? Have you done some research yourself? Have you spoken to installers? Or do you already have solar yourself? Cool. I'm going to go ahead and end that one. Thank you guys so much for participating in those. Helps us a lot. So let's get into it. How does solar work? So this diagram shows the pieces of a standard solar system for a residential unit. So you start with the photovoltaic panels, the solar panels, and they are, mounted on the roof, or in some cases they're mounted just around the property. The next piece of equipment that is in the process is the inverter. So as you can see, it says DC to AC. So the panel produces electricity in DC form. And then what the inverter does is convert that into AC form, which is the form of electricity that is used in your home. So from the inverter, the electricity goes into your electrical panel and powers your home. The next piece of equipment that you would receive in a solar installation is a new utility meter. This utility meter is going to be different from the one you have now because it will move in both directions. What that means is it'll measure how much energy you send into the grid on days where you have excess energy and how much energy you end up pulling from the grid on cloudy days, for example, where your home isn't producing all the energy that you need and you end up having to draw from the grid. But I'll get into that topic later on, the process of giving and receiving electricity. We'll go into that later. And then the grid, of course, is where you would draw power if you didn't need it. So I was talking about inverters, and there's two different styles that exist. On the left, you have your inverter that's placed near your electrical panel, and compare that to the microinverters, which are just smaller versions that are mounted up with the panels themselves. Both perform the same function, and it's your installer will definitely have information as to like what's best for your situation. As I was saying, the mounting options, the roof mount is the more common one, and it's very recognizable. Your roof is open space. Most of the time you don't have stuff up there, so it's a great spot. The ground mount is also an option for where space is if space is available. The one thing to keep in mind with that is there's a process of running wires from the panels to your home, and that process can add to the cost of the entire project. Moving on to how looking at how your home can take solar is it right for solar? It depends on the system's size. So the size of the system depends on how much electricity you and your family consume, how much space is available on your roof, your overall budget, and if you have any aesthetic goals that you're looking for. That's also something that you can take into consideration when trying to plan that out. Of course, your installer will help you through this process completely, looking at what type of system you need and like assessing your needs. They will be there with you every step of the way. So average size for like an average home system size would be around 6 kilowatts. That's the unit of measurement they're measured in. Regarding the orientation of the roof, so since we are in Oregon, we're in the northern hemisphere, and the sun is always going to be in the southern sky. So having a roof that faces south is going to give you the most sunlight, direct sunlight throughout the day, which means that is like the most optimal. If you have a south facing roof, that's the best. Of course, that doesn't mean that east and west facing roofs are not viable for solar, not at all. They still receive plenty of sunlight and they do the same job. Moving on to roofing material, two most common types are the asphalt shingle and the standing seam metal. There are different mounting techniques that are used for either material. With the shingle, there's a piece of there's a piece called the flashing, which is almost like it's like a flat sealed shingle shaped metal object that will fit onto your roof, and it's bolted on underneath through in your rafters, and that holds the racking mechanism that holds the panels up. It wasn't the best explanation, but I can show you guys a picture later. With standing seam metal, these roofs are they last much longer. And the method that they use is they have little clamps that hook onto the metal seams, and those hold up the panels. Another important consideration is how much life your roof has left. As I said earlier, the metal roofs last longer, and with asphalt, they do age. The Energy Trust of Oregon, with the incentives that they offer, they require that your roof has 10 years of life left. And when thinking about installing solar, you don't want to be in a situation where you put solar on your house and 3 years later you need to replace your roof because you have to pay for the system to come down, then your roof gets replaced, and then you have to pay for the system to be reinstalled. So timing those two things is it can be very it can save you a lot of trouble in the future if you are able to time those two correctly. As I was saying earlier, there's rafters and trusses. Those are two common types of roof structures. Both are fine for solar. In any case, your installer will be doing inspections and they will look at all of this and they'll know what to do in terms of if there needs to be any type of reinforcement added, if there needs to be any kind of adjustments made, your installer will definitely speak to you about that. And moving on into incentives, in Oregon, we've had a strong past decade of incentives, available to consumers. And as you can see, the national price of solar has only dropped in the last 10 years. And this is a real testament to how solar is becoming, a very, very viable option for many different entities. So the three main incentives are the investment tax credit, the solar plus storage rebate, and the Energy Trust of Oregon incentive. So with the investment tax credit, that was actually just recently extended, and it stays at 26% through the end of 2022. And then in 2023, it drops down to 22%. And after 2023, it is gone completely. So definitely, I think it was a really big deal that it was renewed, because originally it was supposed to drop to 22% this year, but they kept it at the 26, which is 4% makes a difference, I suppose. So that is done when you do your taxes. You file it among that, and that's like the only thing that you have to do as the customer when it comes to incentives. So the solar plus storage rebate or the energy trust incentives, your contractor handles all of that, and they do the paperwork for that. So the only thing that is on you is to take care of the investment tax credit. Another program that's available is Solar Within Reach by Energy Trust of Oregon. So there is either $1.50 per watt or $1.30 per watt, depending on your utility. So with Portland General Electric, the program is $1.50 per watt up to $9,000. But with Pacific Power, it's $1.30 a watt up to 7,800, I think. So there are income thresholds, and all that information is available in the Energy Trust website. That's your go-to place to find, clear information on these incentives and how you can apply for them. Kate is going to put the Solar Within Reach link into the chat if you want to go check it out. Looking at a sample budget, before I get into this, of course, everyone's system is going to be looking different. Everyone's situation will be different. This doesn't even take into account the whole process of financing your system. It's not something I can really cover, because all I can say is that yes, financing happens, but it's different for everyone. Everyone agrees to different terms. So it's hard to put an exact number when it comes to that stuff. But with this, if you start with a $20,000 system, 6 kilowatts, you receive your energy trust incentive, which changes depending on if you're a low or moderate income resident. And you do receive your ODO rebate, which applies to the low and moderate income bracket again. And then after that, then from that total, your 26% tax credit gets deducted, and then you have your final costs, and then from there, obviously, the financing happens. But yeah, that's a basic budget. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where this is the process of giving and receiving electricity from the grid. So as you can see on the left, so during the summer months, let's say like June, July, you receive the most sunlight. Your home produces much more solar than it actually needs. So that green space gets turned into credit that is applied to your account. And during the winter, when there's more cloudy days and your home needs to draw electricity from the grid, that red area, you won't have to pay for it because it'll be deducted from your credits. So that credit calendar it starts in March and then ends at March. So there's no point in getting a larger system than you need and saving up a bunch of credits because they don't roll over into the next year. So yeah, that's one question we've had is, what happens if you get a really big system and just constantly produce a bunch of electricity? It won't really benefit you because the credits don't roll over. So how do you get started? So this is where the Energy Trust website comes in. They have great tools that are available to you that can help you get started today. They through their program and like the incentives, they use what are called trade allies. These are contractors that are vetted by Energy Trust, and they're rigorously qualified, and they are familiar with receiving the incentives from Energy Trust, so they know how to do all of that. And there are a lot of trade allies. There's a tool on their website that allows you to put your zip code in, and it'll find the ones that are closest to you. And you can use the solar bid page. This page allows you to put in some basic information about you and your home, and then 3 contractors will reach out to you and will work with you to perform an analysis of your home, and they'll give you a bid as to like how much a system would cost. And you get 3 different options. They don't bombard you with emails. You will only get 3 emails from the trade allies. So once that's done, you would begin your installation process, where your contractor would complete all of your paperwork and handle the inspections. The installation itself would take 1 to 2 days. I'm gonna go back. Yeah, so the installation would take 1 to 2 days, and the inspections after would also be taken care of by the contractor. And at that point, you have solar. So I'm going to look at the chat before I move on to the solar story, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yes, T. Plammers actually brings up a great point, that Energy Trust does have service territories. That map can be found on their website. So you have to be in one of those service territories with PGE, Pacific Power, or I think it's Idaho Power. Or I don't know if that's the exact term, but the one that says Idaho. But yeah, that's a great point brought up. And yeah, so I don't see anything else. I'm going to check the Q&A as well. Well, it's not popping up. Okay, I'm just going to move on. So I wanted to share a solar story, and this is from John Greiser. So this video was actually featured on our Go Zero tour, which happened just this past October. So that on that tour, we hosted zero energy homes, and with John's example, solar was his main uh, way of getting energy, and that was a big part of his design. So I thought it was a great way to build a cool house. And I've never really thought about houses like this. And I'm gonna play it and let me know if the audio is working correctly.
1 hour of sunlight falling on this earth powers the world for a year. Solar is the fastest growing segment of the largest industry in the world, and it's undeniably the future. My name is John Dreiser. I'm the owner of Elemental Energy. We're a local solar install company. And for the past 10 years, I've had the pleasure of spending my day putting solar on everyone else's house, and finally to put solar on my own house. I worked on this for the past 6 years. I bought the property, vacant lot here in Coley, Northeast Portland. This house that we're looking at today is eventually going to become the ADU. Over on the north side of the property over there, save a bunch of space to put the main house. That's kind of a 3-year plan. I guess there was a hashtag for this house, the hashtag small house, big solar. So it's 570 square feet. But it has 10 kilowatts of PV on it. And what's unique about these modules is that they are bifacial. The cell that's used on this module is capable of converting sunlight into electricity no matter what side the sunlight hits. The system has a 25-year warranty, so it's going to be guaranteed to produce at least 25 years. You're going to pay more money for 25 years of electricity than if you bought solar today and installed it. But that's a hurdle. That is absolutely a hurdle for many people. That is the one hurdle, is getting over that. But if you can clear that hurdle, it will be a good economic decision. So, and there's a lot of good drivers for reducing that cost. There's a federal tax credit of 26%. A quarter of your entire cost of that system is instantly returned to you. So over the course of the year, this produces way more than it consumes. I turned the system on in March, and I think I produce 4.5 times as much energy as I consume. I don't have an electric car now, but I think every house should come with an EV charger. If I were to come up with a tagline for this house, it's 100% solar powered home, off-grid capable with a hot tub. To live 100% solar powered, to live off-grid, a lot of times people will think candle lights or conservation or sweaters in the winter, definitely not hot tubs. But I wanted to show that that can be done. So 2 Tesla Powerwall home battery systems. Each one of these is 14 kilowatt hours of energy storage. As I like to call it, this is basically my on-grid or off-grid switch. So if I were to flip this right now, which I'll just do for the remainder of the tour, I am off-grid, so everything in the house is running off of Powerwalls and solar. So everything's on. Very proud of this. Basically, this says that this home will use zero energy from sources that it does not offset itself. So yeah, welcome inside. So everything's working. The fan just turned on. The lights are on. So we are operating fully off-grid right now. All the electricity we'll use on this tour. It's a 100% electric house, ductless mini split heat system. There's a tankless electric hot water heater, also a radiant floor heating system. I did finish concrete floors. I ran hydronic radiant loops through the floor. We threw the switch and disconnected from the grid. And when you're doing that, so the Tesla system thinks that there's a power outage. So when it does that, you get a notification on your phone. And right here you can say, John's house, Powerwall is 98% charged and providing power to your home. Get a lot of energy efficiency measures with the 3 inches of closed cell foam in the ceiling, the rest of that cavity, plus the walls with dense pack blown-in insulation. 18-inch dishwasher and 24-inch microwave range and refrigerator. Everything's Energy Star. It's a nice compact kitchen. But this is the small kind of utility room that we have here. Now we're at the kind of the end of the tour, 570 square feet later. We're here at the side door. So I started Elemental Energy as my senior project in college. We started off on this path of just having this company as a way to get a senior project done. And I graduated. I got a job at Solar World. What I was doing in that laboratory, it wasn't make or break for whether solar was going to be adopted at a wide scale. What was going to make that shift happen was getting out there and telling the world that solar works. That's what we've been doing for 10 years. We work on residential and commercial and off-grid and you name it. You know, the sun falls on every corner of this earth. It is the one true, infinite, and renewable resource that is replenishing what we have on this earth every single day. And it's accessible to everyone on earth. So how could you not move towards that future with everything you had in you?
Cool. So that was John. And I'm going to try and pull up the Q&A here. I think I'm going to have to stop sharing my screen to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, here we go. Ken Barker, is there anyone at the Solar Oregon and Energy Trust that could talk to any interested groups that I can gather? I don't completely understand the question. To any interested groups that, oh, do you mean you gathering people that are interested in solar? Yes, we have plenty of How to Go Solars coming up, and there's a calendar on our website that talks about the ones that are coming up. Next, why doesn't Energy Trust of Oregon offer rebates and incentives to all people in Oregon? I was surprised to learn that my power company, Columbia River PUD, doesn't participate in Energy Trust programs, and none of these incentives apply to me. I want to do net zero projects. I don't know why that is the case. That's not something I know that Kate can definitely answer to that.
Yeah, I'm happy to help answer that. So Energy Trust's funding came from a bill that was passed in 1999, which was basically putting in place a public purpose charge to take a little bit of money from people's electricity bills, and the Oregon Public Utility Commission authorized to direct that funding. And so right now there are only 5 utilities within Washington and or Idaho and Oregon that participate in this. And so that is why there are only some certain areas that Energy Trust can really get funding for. But as somebody said in the chat, it's a great option to reach out to your electric utility to see if there are any incentives that are offered outside of Energy Trust territory.
Right. Yeah, there's a link in the chat that says that CRPUD does have a solar rebate. So yeah, I would check that out. But yeah, next question. Terrence, are Tesla Powerwalls one of the options a contractor specify when giving bids? I would imagine yes. Like if you approached your contractor with your preference and you tell them that I would like storage and I'd like it to be a Tesla Powerwall, I'm sure that your contractor would try their best to make that happen. I'm not entirely like versed in the practices of solar installers, so I don't know if some of them have like brand affiliations or not. I would imagine that that's not the case, and that they can provide you the best product. Next, Sue Copeland. Okay, so Sue asked, "What happens during a power outage?" So that's a good question to segue into from the Tesla Powerwall question. So, for example, in the event of a power outage, if you had storage, like John did in that video, when he turned off his access to the grid, the home switched over to running on the batteries, which are replenished by the solar. So that in that case, he can keep going without needing electricity from the grid. In the case where you don't have storage, your power would go out because you don't have your solar panels will be creating energy, but if the grid is not producing it, it won't be able to power your home. I'm Kate. Is that the right? Am I using the right logic there?
Yeah, so basically you just need to have that battery system to help house that electricity. So if you just have the solar panels, there's nothing to collect that electricity.
Terrence, why aren't energy credits carried over into the next year? Seems like a punitive action. Again, I don't know the answer to that. I would imagine that that's just something that is written into like the legislation of net metering. That's something that like the state controls on like a legislative level. So it's really not something that I know the answer to, but yeah, it's a good question. Susan, is there a formula for determining how much energy solar panels will capture and compare that with my normal usage in home? Actually, yes, there is. Kate can put the link in the chat. There's something called Google Project Sunroof, and you can use that tool, and it'll have like a satellite image of your house, and it'll show how much sunlight your roof will get.
Also, when you reach out to contractors and installers, they'll take your energy consumption throughout the year and be able to put together an accurate example of how many kilowatts and how many panels you'll need to support your electrical system.
Okay, next question would be Patricia. Yeah, it's not really like up to us as Solar Oregon. Like I don't know what we would be able to do about incentives not approaching. That's completely like an energy trust decision. There's not much I know about it other than it's most likely a legislative decision as to like which areas are considered energy trust territories. But yeah, I don't have much more to say about that.
I just also put my email address in a response to you. So if you would like to talk more about this, I'm happy to try and help give you some more information.
Susan asked, "Is there a formula for?" Oh, I just answered that. Never mind. But yeah, if there's
questions in the chat right now.
Okay. Let's see. Once the system is sized and installed, is it reasonable to add capacity at a later time? I would imagine that if like your energy needs increased and the space was there to be able to add panels, like that process seems pretty straightforward to me. So I think it definitely depends on the available space and the structural capabilities of your roof. And what do we need to do? What do we do next to get this started? To get what started? I don't completely understand that question.
I'd say if you're talking about starting your solar journey, I would consider using that link to reach out to get a solar bid. We also, in a follow-up email that we will send out to everyone, will have multiple different handouts that have links and more information about solar and the solar process. And so you can find the links to things like this, the solar bid, or to more information from Energy Trust and other incentives on those handouts.
Well, there's another question. Thank you. Is net metering kilowatt to kilowatt, or does PGE pay for your electricity at a lower rate? We pay about 11 cents per kilowatt, but I heard that PGE pays about 4 cents per kilowatt. I do not know the exact numbers on that. I can look on the PGE website. Let's see. It says that let's see, I'm pulling it up right now. I did not see the exact number. I was, oh my goodness, I do not know where to find this. Really sorry about the delay. I'm gonna move on to that. David, I'm gonna put my email in the chat. Please email me, and I'm gonna get back with you about that question. I can't find an answer right now, but I'll be looking for it, and I want to follow up with you. So feel free to email me. It isn't one-to-one. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I need to just do a little bit of research on that. Patricia, does the fact I don't qualify for incentives, does it mean that I won't qualify for solar contractor bidding on my projects? That's what I was told by Energy Trust of Oregon. Kate, do you have any thoughts on that one?
That's a really good question, Patricia. I haven't heard that. I know that my parents are outside of Energy Trust territory, and they filled out the solar bid request, and they still got 3 contractors that responded to them. There are a lot of contractors on that list that install outside of Energy Trust territory. So if you fill out that list, you should still receive a bid or contact information from a few installers that work in your area.
Okay. I don't see anything coming up in the chat, and I don't see anything coming up in the Q&A. Well, with that note, I want to thank all of you guys for joining us today. I really appreciate everyone that joined. The recording of this will be sent to you in an email along with like fact sheets that contain a lot of what we talked about today, and they all have the links that you need on them as well. And of course, both of our emails are in the chat. So if you guys have any follow-up questions, feel free to send us an email, and we'll definitely get back to you. And with that, I hope that everyone enjoys the rest of their Tuesday. And thank you for joining us.